On this episode of Laid Back History, we're talking about Election Day. So I want to welcome you back to another episode of Laid Back History. This is our second annual Election Day special. Last year we did an episode on the election box from Bellsville. That was actually a pretty involved episode to put together to do the research on the election. This one's a little more simple. You don't want to be a little more basic, but it is election day. It seems like, I guess we're going to have one of these every year that we do Laid Back History, because Laid Back History is Tuesday, election day is on Tuesday. And so I'm hoping that everyone watching has gotten out and voted. If you haven't, go now. There's still time. Come back and watch this when you get back. But, I decided today would be a perfect day to wear my vote shirt. Schoolhouse Rock, if you guys remember Schoolhouse Rock, this is the bill, probably the most famous of the songs from Schoolhouse Rock. But at any rate, so today we're going to try to make this a short episode. People have things to do. They've been busy today. They've been voting. They've been working. Let's make this a quick, fun one, and that way you can enjoy the rest of your evening. So we're going to answer a couple questions today. I've had people ask, why is Election Day on a Tuesday? Why is it in November? And it's kind of interesting. It's a simple answer that explains it, but there's kind of a fun answer. And so let's go with November first. Let's figure out November. So why do we have Election Day in November? Well, it really goes back to farmers in the 18th and 19th century. That is the primary occupation of the bulk of the population of the United States. And so there's a big impact on when voting would take place. So November is kind of a sweet spot for voting. Now think about this. You had to travel to your county seat initially to vote. Well, to travel to your county seat, for us, it's a 45-minute ride. At the furthest distance, it might be 45 minutes, maybe an hour at best, but really 45 will get you pretty much anywhere in the county. But that same trip back then is going to be a day or two. I mean, it's a longer trip. So they want to make sure that it's early enough in the year that people can travel. So if you would have it in late November, December, the weather's going to turn and roads might not be passable, so people can't get to the county seat. So they wanted something early enough in the year that the roads and everything would still be open. But they also wanted to take into account the farmers. And what is the fall of the year for farmers? It's harvest. It's the season of harvest. And so September and October, they're so busy with harvest, they can't leave to go vote. If this is a day trip for them, they've got to vote and come back. You're looking at 2 days they're missing out when they need to be working on the farm, when they need to be harvesting. And so early November was picked for the very simple reason that it fit well with the farmers, that it was after harvest, but before it got too cold or before there was snow and bad weather, that people couldn't make the journey. And that's really it. That is the basic reason that we have Election Day. The elections were held in early November. Now, that's for the presidential election. For other elections, people or different municipalities and areas, they held them at different times. Eventually, everything gets in sync and it all falls, on the same day. But, there are some elections that they could have been held in August. It was just whenever they felt like having that particular election, if it was for a local municipality. Eventually, everybody gets in sync and they do it in early November. So now the Tuesday. That takes a little more explanation, but it still goes back to farmers in that primary occupation, and also religion. So you need to vote. Well, in 1792, it was decided, basically there was a law passed that the presidential electors had to be elected by the first Wednesday in December. So what they did was they allowed a 34-day period prior to the first Wednesday in December that elections could be held. It could be held anytime within that 34 days. So that basically gives you all of November and the first couple days of December. So they wanted to have the elections within that 34-day period. But it was up to the state in the area to decide when they had the election. It could be any time within those 34 days. Well, most states end up picking a Tuesday. And there's a good reason for that. So let's look at, the days of the week. On Sunday, you have church, all right? People are going to church. They're not going to go vote on a Sunday. On Wednesday and Thursday, you have market days. That is when most of the farmers would either take their goods to the market or go to market to buy goods. And so Wednesday and Thursday, those are typical market days throughout the country. It wasn't just something that was in one region. Throughout the country, you see those being the typical market days. So allowing for a day of travel in case you needed to, you had to travel to your voting site, your polling site, that would leave Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday. So let's say you did your market days Wednesday, Thursday, you could travel Friday, vote early Saturday, and then be back in time to go to church Sunday morning. But you do have a slight problem there. There are some that recognize Saturday as the Sabbath. So they might go to church on Sunday, but they recognize Saturday as the Sabbath. So to them, they couldn't vote on Saturday. So that leaves Monday, Tuesday. So it was decided by most regions, by most states, to have voting on a Tuesday simply because you could go to church Sunday. If you wanted to travel Sunday afternoon and Monday, you could. You could vote early Tuesday, travel back, and still make it to the markets on Wednesday and Thursday. So that's your main reason for it being on a Tuesday. So it comes down to farmers. They end up, wanting to make sure the farmers can vote, so they adjust it so that they can. And that's pretty much how it is, all the way up through 1843. Anytime in that 34-day period, you can vote, you can have your elections. But what was being seen was by 1843, you have things like the telegraph. Communications are a little more rapid, and so information is being spread a lot quicker than it was before. And what they saw was that elections could be manipulated. I know, big surprise. So, sorry. Elections could be manipulated. So let's say, Pennsylvania decides to hold their election real late in November, and other elections happen, and maybe a state that the Republicans thought they were going to take, and I'm just randomly choosing Republicans. This is not meant of anything, but let's say the Republicans lost New York and they thought they were going to win it. What they would do is then rally in Pennsylvania because it was later. So now they have time to go rally and pull more people into the polls and make sure that they win Pennsylvania when maybe it wouldn't have mattered before. And so by this rapid transfer of information now, communications being more rapid, they were able to manipulate or adjust based on earlier elections. So the states that held earlier, they could influence what happened later on. Or, it could be such a thing where, I'm going to vote for, person A, but he has no chance to win. I see, oh my God, 4 states have already selected him or selected the other guy. Might as well go vote for, person B instead. And so it could be manipulated that way. So by 1845, Congress decides to set an election day. And again, this is for presidential elections. So in 1845, they pick the election day, but they go with Tuesday because that's what everybody had been doing. That's what most states had been doing anyway. So they decided to stick with the Tuesday. And what they decided to do was, based off that first Wednesday in December, having everything done by then, they decided to go with the first Tuesday following the first Monday in November. So if November 1st fell on a Tuesday, that wouldn't be Election Day, it would be the following. So Election Day would never fall any later than November 8th, which means you always have about I think it's 29 days, approximately, because of the way the calendar works, between Election Day and that first Wednesday in December when everything's due. And it's just been that way, since then. You just kind of have it continuing on that way. But in 1933, they changed the time when the president, the terms of the president, vice president, to correlate a little more with Election Day. But that's it. I mean, it basically goes back to, if you want to know why you're going out to vote today on a Tuesday in November when it's cold, and I don't know why I chose to be outside today. It's beautiful sky and everything. It's just cold. But the reason you're doing that today is because farmers back in the 1890s or in the 1790s needed to be able to get to the polls, and the best day for them was a Tuesday in November. So there you go. That's it. It's that simple. It's nothing too complicated. But there you go. That is why we vote on the second Tuesday following the first Monday in November. And there's been controversy over it only because people have to work. There's been calls and pushes to make this Tuesday a national holiday so people would have it off so they could go vote, bring more people out to the polls. And some states do. Some states actually make it a recognized day off. I don't know what you would call that, a state holiday. I know Hawaii does. I think Montana does. Maybe Ohio. I can't think of other ones. I know there's several that do, so that you will have the day off to go vote. Pennsylvania does not do that, as you can tell by all the people going by, and you can probably hear the work going on the building next door. So at any rate, there you go. There's your episode. There's your second annual Election Day special. I'm going to call it quits. We're going to call it a short episode, and I will see you next week for another episode of Laid Back History.